So I shouldn't be able to move your support thumb. You should be digging in towards about the 4 o'clock position. With regards to accuracy and marksmanship, what's the first thing we tell guys when we see them missing? What are they messing up with regards to fundamentals? Trigger press, trigger press. So we always say, hey, clean trigger press. And then if they're still missing after that, we'll probably say, oh, it's your anticipation. Or maybe we'll tell them that they're having a sloppy sight picture. So it'll be trigger press, anticipation, they're dipping the gun, or a sloppy sight picture. Guys can still be doing all those 3 things right and still be missing. What we tend to notice is that grip is actually why a lot of guys are missing with regards to marksmanship. There's a lot of different reasons behind that. One of the big reasons is that we never actually diagnose grip, because how many rounds do we typically shoot at cardboard when we shoot it? Like 2 rounds? 2 and we're good? How many rounds do we shoot at steel typically? Like 1 round and we move on. So we don't ever actually have the time to diagnose what the actual symptoms are with our issues with accuracy. So, you know, I'm not the first person to say that grip is gonna help you improve with your marksmanship, help you improve with your accuracy. I do think that there's a bit more that we could be saying about it to give guys a better foundation from which they can move forward. So about 10 years ago, it became pretty in vogue to kind of scoff at the old school 60-40 mentality. And I was one of those guys that like laughed at it. You guys are familiar with that, with, you know, 60% of your support hand, 40% of your right hand. And when we'd be like, well, how much is, you know what 62% feels like? And I was definitely the guy on your side right now, go like, yeah, that's right. I don't know what 62% feels like. That's stupid. So we started the discussion there. And I think where we kind of got led astray is we started to look at guidelines as a strict adherence to how we actually should be gripping the gun versus looking at, I think, what is a little bit more effective, which is a principles-based approach, because, you know, I'm shooting 320. Who else is shooting 320? You're shooting 320? Who's shooting Glocks? Okay. Did Glock call you and say, hey, how big is your hand? Where should we be putting the stippling on the side of the frame of the pistol? No, they didn't, okay? So we noticed that everyone's shooting different platforms. Even if you are shooting the same platform, you don't have the same size hand. You don't have the same life experiences growing up. We have different interpretations of what athleticism means, okay? So if instead of taking a strict procedures-based approach, which tends to somewhat remedy the issues, if we take a principles-based approach, we'll be able to square guys away. So what I say, or what I mean by a procedures-based approach is, you know, we got away from the whole 60-40 mentality. We started to look at how we apply pressure onto the side of the gun. And one of the big things that guys are told now is to get as high up onto the frame of the pistol and far forward as they can. You guys familiar with this, especially if you're Glock shooters? That is a good guideline, but from there, we need to modify it specifically to the performance of the athlete. So we get high onto the frame and we get forward. Well, this becomes problematic because what happens with my support elbow when I get too high and too far forward? What do you see? I start to over torque on my elbow. So can I shoot a gun like this? Yeah, if I had to. I could shoot at the 7-yard line. I could shoot at the 50-yard line like this. But is this a very effective way to shoot with regards to form? If we are looking at performance at the top tiers, we need to be perfect with everything we do with our form and then our positioning with our body. So yes, I can shoot a gun like this. Not very effective, all right, if we're looking at performing at a very high level. So get high, get far forward. Those are guidelines. What I think we should be doing instead is be looking at contact and pressure. So those 2 principles, contact and pressure. Where on my support hand do I make the firmest contact? It's typically with my support thumb towards the inside of the digit and then on the meaty portion of my palm in here. Now, if I get too high up, if I get too far forward, my elbow starts to torque out. So I need to figure out where exactly my Goldilocks zone is in here by either rolling it back or rolling it forward to see where I can maintain contact along the side of the frame of the pistol. Maintaining contact on the lower portion of the frame of the pistol over here gets overlooked a lot because where does all the violence happen when we're shooting the gun? Happens on the slide. So intuitively, we want to get as high as possible to control grip on the gun, or excuse me, control the recoil on the gun. which is true, but it shouldn't be at the expense of being able to have good contact with the rest of our hand onto the side of the frame of the pistol. If I get too high, if I get too far forward, what happens is with this meaty portion of my hand down here, it actually comes up and makes contact onto my firing side fingers right here on the left side of the pistol. By making that contact, I'm leaving this gap open back here on the back left of my pistol. What do we hear a lot of novice Glock shooters say about their accuracy? Where does it miss? Low and to the left. Well, if I'm doing everything that my YouTube instructor told me to do, I get high, I get far forward, you guys see how much real estate I'm missing. Path of least resistance when the explosion happens in my hand. Where am I creating it right now? I have all this real estate back here that I'm not utilizing, okay? So, shocker, when I don't take up real estate back here with firm contact with my sport hand, the gun rocks low into the left, all right? The way that I ensure that I'm maintaining this contact on the back side of the meaty portion of my hand and the frame of my pistol, I'll take my middle finger and my pinky, wrap it around my firing side hand, and I'll dig them in there with a complementary grip on my firing side, middle finger, and pinky. When I go to grip this gun, I am damn near white knuckling it to the point where my sights are shaking and I scale backwards from there. Some of the old school thought that we had about, you need to relax your firing hand, you can cycle this gun at about 0.15, 0.16 seconds pretty damn quickly, and you can have your hand clenching on it really tight. You're not gonna fatigue yourself. You're gonna be able to squeeze this trigger pretty rapidly, okay? So contact and pressure, accountability with my middle finger and my pinky right here. With my firing side hand, I'm looking at contact and pressure as well. So obviously the webbing of my hand right here coming up onto the back strap of the pistol, making sure that my middle finger is making contact onto the trigger guard right here. So those are the two primary points of contact that I feel. Now, with regards to pressure, when I apply pressure to this gun, I'm taking these three fingers on my firing side hand and pushing this way into the pistol. The reason for that is because it creates complementary pressure going that way into the gun and then also back this way with the palm of my firing side hand. If I squeeze this gun like I squeeze a pull-up bar, I'm now sending pressure back towards the 6 o'clock, towards myself, and towards the 12 o'clock, and I have a lot less control of the gun. The reason for that is because I have less surface area on the front here of the frame and on the back side here versus on the sides of the frame of the pistol. So if I take up more surface area to apply that pressure, I'll be able to apply good grip onto the gun, but not start losing control because I'm gripping it too hard, okay? By applying that complementary pressure back into the side of the frame of the pistol, we'll see a lot that the gap back here on my support hand closes up significantly. Now, if you're shooting one round, typically you don't notice it. If you're shooting 2 rounds, typically you don't notice it. When we get really aggressive out here with running into and out of position, your mind is focusing on, okay, I gotta get to my next shooting position. I have to shoot this many rounds at the target. That's when we'll start to see guys' grip really open up. And if this is a micro error down here that we can correct with accountability in our middle finger and our pinky, we'll be good to go when we start to really get into these high volumes of fire. We have a high heart rate and you got a lot more running to do ahead of you after you shoot one target, all right? So there's a lot of different dot drills out there, a lot of pretty cool ones. This is something that I found just works really well for me. We've got different transitions between 1-inch dots and about a 2.5-inch dots right here in the middle. And we can see we got a third row here where we go back between 1-inch and 2.5-inch dots. The design behind this setup. So as shooters, we're typically pretty focused in for the first 4 to 5 shots that we take when we're under strict margins of accuracy. So we've got our 4th and our 5th shot in the middle, and the actual top row extends out to about 8 shots, or excuse me, exactly 8 shots right here. This should feel mentally exhausting to be able to place accurate fire in every single dot. Now, you're gonna be able to do it at about 0.7 to 1 second per dot. What we're also gonna be looking at here is what happens with your grip and your consistency with being able to have the meaty portion of your hand on the frame of the pistol. Remember, we talked about that middle finger and that pinky. A lot of times we don't condition ourselves to actually shoot at high volumes of fire, so our grip will open up. Because we have this strict margin of accuracy that we're trying to be proficient under, once you get to that 4th or that 5th round, if you start to notice your accuracy start to go to crap, hold yourself accountable, press down on that middle finger and that pinky. If you feel your palms tighten up on the frame of the pistol, it'll be the, aha, that's the light bulb moment. That's what we want you to be going for, okay? Other reason you might miss is because at our 4th or our 5th round, that's typically when we start to chase speed. If you know you pulled the shot because you didn't have a strict sight picture or it was a trigger press, go ahead and call it. Transitioning from the first row down to the second row, we've got these 2.5-inch dots. This is intuitively what we think is going to be the easiest row to shoot. This is the hardest row for guys to shoot. So you come off of the top row of 8 1-inch dots, you dial it in, and you're like, finally, I get to go for speed. What happens here is guys will push the throttle down to the floor, and they won't be maintaining a strict sight picture, and their shot group will just open up and we'll see things really go to crap. So this is intuitively what we think is gonna be the easiest row to shoot. It's actually the hardest. Bringing it back down to the third row down here, we've got 1-inch dot and 2.5-inch dots weaving in and out of them. You'll shoot each 1-inch dot with a single round. Take the makeup shot if you need to. If you break the line, we'll give it to you. You paid money to be here, so you'll be good to go. With the middle targets, these 2.5-inch dots, you'll shoot 2 rounds at each one. Take the makeup shot if you need to. Same thing, if you break the line, you're good to go. And then as you get down here, transitions between 1 round and 2 rounds. 24 rounds, if you shoot it clean, this should feel like a mental smoker. A good time on this exercise is around 25 seconds for par time. That's where we know that guys are really just dialed in with their marksmanship. Anything above that, we're starting to see areas where we can look for improvement. All right, let's go ahead and shoot this. All right. What we got total time? 18:11, down 1, so 18 plus 1. All right, so consistency exercise. It is a look at your grip consistency on the gun and then just also your mental stamina with being able to shoot a high volume of rounds with very small margins of accuracy. So if you guys want to test this out, show us your scores, go ahead and check out the download link that is in the bio right here.